Hey, and welcome back. Okay, in this video, I've decided to go ahead and install the fillet fueling system next. Just because you got to drill a hole in the side of the fuselage here, where the engine is mounted, and you're going to run this little green tube, which is a filler tube, through there. So I was going to wait till the engine was mounted, but why bother? I know where it's supposed to go because I did it on the first one. And so I measured on the engine, on the first NexStar that I built, that the this little thing here, I got my tank bag, and so this is the fillet fueling system. You got this little stopper that I'll just go ahead and, so I don't lose it, I'll put it in the green line. So that stopper is what's going to go in the green line, and this little thing is going to get put right about there. Okay, let me get the, hold on a minute, I'm going to move the camera and get a little better shot at this. Okay, that looks better. So I'm going to, along this red stripe right here, I'm going to measure back from the front where that red stripe starts about 2.5 inches, and make a mark. And I'm going to measure up about 1 inch, and make a mark. Okay. And so that's the bottom and the front where that's going to sit. So it's going to sit right about there. Okay. So how big to make it? That's a good question. So what I'm going to do is get out my trusty measuring stick here. Okay. And we'll measure it. And I'm going to measure this in inches. Okay. And so I'm just going to measure how wide that is, and that is 7/16. So to have a clear hole, you probably need either a half's going to be too much, isn't it? So I'm going to see if I can get away with finding a 7, read that, there you go, okay. So I'm going to see if I can find getting a 7/16 drill bit to drill that out. So be right back and see if I can find a 7/16 drill bit. Okay, I'm back, and I found a brand new 7/16 pilot point drill bit. Pilot point means that in the front here there's a little, drill a little pilot hole first before it gets to the 7/16. And this is my brand new drill I got for Father's Day, and so we're gonna try to drill this. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. So we're gonna drill real slow and very carefully. I'm going to put some pressure on the back side, but not put my finger where the hole is going to be. I'm going to stop a minute. I just realized, when I did this the first time, I did mess up a little bit, and I just realized what I did wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an X-Acto knife where I drew a nice Sharpie circle there. That's where I'm going to drill. And it's better to cut that than to have the drill try to cut it. So I'm going to cut that out and then be back in a minute to cut it with a razor knife. Okay, I'm back, and you can see I cut that out. The reason I cut it out is twofold. This is a racing stripe kind of piece sitting on top of the white covering. And so that comes off pretty easily, and I don't want to ruin the racing stripe or the covering. And so there it is. I Cut a nice tiny little piece out. And I went outside the line because this has a about a 3/32 lip on it, so it will hide any circle that wasn't exactly round. This drill goes nice and slow, which is exactly what I want. Trying to go as vertical as I can. Okay, so now that that went through, as I said, it made some splinters on this side, so I'm going to get those splinters out with my razor knife and clean up that hole a little bit. Be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back, and the X-Acto knife did a real good job of cleaning that hole up, and if you put the piece in, it covers up all of the ragged edges there, so that's going to look real nice. Now we're going to epoxy this in with a little bit of epoxy. Also on the inside where we cut it, because some of the splinters broke out, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the fuel proofing isn't as good as it used to be now. So when I do that epoxy, I'm going to make sure there's a bit of epoxy where that to make that fuel proofing a little better, because fuel proofing is really just a resin kind of an epoxy stuff. So I'm going to apply a little extra epoxy on the inside here, and then on this outside here, and squeeze it in, and I'll show you that in a minute, mixing up some epoxy next. Okay, I'm back and ready to epoxy. Got my 6-minute epoxy here. 6 minutes, short enough and strong enough, no problem. I have a homemade little box to hold my epoxy cup in, and I've got some wooden sticks because it says wooden sticks on the box for stirring it. And so I get a couple of stir sticks out, and I'll use the same stick for threading. Won't need all those. I always also have with me a small spray bottle of alcohol, 91% isopropyl alcohol. And I've got a couple of paper towels, and I got a paper towel here so that when I push this in, if some of the epoxy oozes down, it won't get on anything other than that piece of paper towel there. And I got the item to be epoxied. So here we go. This is just going to be a small amount of epoxy. So the red tip goes on that side, the blue tip goes on that side, the red and blue get mixed together, and we slowly let the stuff ooze down into the tip. And when it all is down there, both sides are down, then we'll just spew a little out here. Okay, almost ready. Here we go. So just let me see if you can see this or not, but it's just going to be a tiny little dribbity drab. And you always want to get an equal amount of both. Okay, that looks pretty good. Always put the red cap back on the red bottle, or the blue cap on the blue bottle, otherwise you'll never get them off again. Alright, so I'm going to take a nice stir stick here, stir this up. Now this is a really tiny amount in there. You don't need much. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to spread a nice even amount on the outside rim, and I am going to, that's enough, take another stick and spread it around. So I've got a full circle of epoxy, and we don't want any epoxy on the inside, so I'm going to just do a little wipe here to make sure there's no epoxy on the inside. And that's just going to go straight on in. And that's enough epoxy that's going to, I mean, you know, there's not a lot of wear and tear on this one. So I'm going to take the big stick and keep it, take the little stick out, throw it away. And I'm going to take a little bit of epoxy on the big stick here, turn this over to see how the epoxy came out on the other side, and to apply a little here and here where the fuel proofing got messed up a little, because that's basically all fuel proofing is an epoxy resin thinned out and spray painted. Okay, so now what I like to do is leave that little bit of epoxy left in there and leave the stick sitting in there, put the cup back in there, and that's going to tell me when the epoxy is dry. Don't need the wooden sticks anymore. Okay, now I'm going to inspect this. Now the front side didn't get any on the outside, so I'm going to leave this thing turned over this way so I can inspect the epoxy on the inside and make sure. I think what I'm going to do is take a wad of paper towel and put it through the outside into the inside, and just make sure that there is no epoxy in that hole or even on the edge. Okay, good. Alright, so you need to leave it like this so the epoxy is going to be gravity fed down, and if you turn it upside down, all that epoxy is going to ooze down the center of the little black thing there. So I'm just looking at the epoxy, making sure it's all good and well spread, and it does look good. So that's 6 minute epoxy. We'll wait 6 minutes, probably a little longer than that, more like 10 or 15, and see how it came out.